Welcome to the Republican Professor. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Chris Tighe, for his second time. Hey, thanks for being here, Chris.
Hello, thank you. Thank you. Always nice to hang out with you, Lucas.
Gosh, I feel like we're on the radio now or something
Why is
because
that?
you have a really nice microphone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I had a podcast. I still do technically. I have two actually.
Yeah.
And I have a business coach and he's like, "Hey, look, there's two things you need to know when it comes to making videos or whatever. It's sound and lighting.
Uh-huh.
Those those are the two most important things whenever you record." So, probably a little over a year ago, I bought this microphone and I use it quite often actually. So I like it.
What kind of microphone is it? What's the brand name?
I think it's called Shure,
Yeah,
Shure
that's a good
7.
that's a good
Yeah.
kind, yeah.
It was like $250 or something like that. But I figure if I buy one, I'm never going to have to buy one again, for a
Right,
while anyway.
right,
So,
right.
but yeah, it's been a good microphone, and I've had several podcasts, been a guest on a few with it, and sometimes I'll record some YouTube videos or Instagram type stuff for the business, and I use the microphone. It just sounds really good.
Yeah. So the last time we had you on, we went in your background
Hmm.
for police officer and military and a bit on your construction. Actually, I think you had like a real estate business in Washington,
Yeah, property
and
management.
quite a bit has changed in the last year. Actually, it's been about what, 14 months, something like that.
About that,
Fif-
yeah,
15.
yeah. Hmm.
So what's going on in Chris Thailand now?
Well, so since then, we sold the property management company. It's just too difficult. We had two companies going on at the same time. Both were very young companies, and to be in a startup mode for two companies at the same time is was not easy.
Yeah.
And my wife was a supporting spouse, and she jumped in to help out, but it wasn't what she wanted to do. And it got to a point where she was actually handling the business, the property management side, because I was so focused on the construction side. And after a while, we're like, let's just sell this thing because she's not happy. Um, it was stressful for me because I was trying to bounce between the two and make customers happy. So we found someone who was willing to buy our contracts in Washington, and that closed on December 1st of 2022, which was nice. Um, and now I get the one business to focus on. So yeah, since that was one thing. The other thing is I can't remember what month we had the podcast, but we decided to move to Houston. And so was I do you remember? No, I was in Washington still when we had the last podcast. So I moved to Houston. We sold a house, we bought a house, we sold a company, moved a household. I had to make the drive twice, and we did that all within 90 days. From decision to fully executing the plan was 3 months. So, that was Linda and my military training of coming up with a plan, uh, executing, adapting as crap comes up, which a lot did, and making it home here in Houston. So we've been here for a year now, actually. Actually, a week. Next week, it'll be a year. We'll be here. Oh, I lost your sound.
Have you ever lived in one place for more than 4 years?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it depends. So yes, in San Diego area, I lived there for a while, but we didn't live in the same house for more than a couple of years. We moved around a lot. Our last house we lived in for 5 years, and then before that was Hawaii. I lived there for a while, but we also moved around different houses and stuff. So yeah, moving has been quite, part of our story, and we're trying to change that. We're hoping that this is the last move for a long time.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
that. For a
yeah.
lot of my military friends that grew up in the military or whatever, it just feels like around every 4 years they have a new opportunity, and I
Hmm.
I wonder how much of that is in the genetics of growing up and just getting used to moving and
I would
like
say it's part of it,
getting bored.
yeah, I do get bored. It was a struggle in Hawaii because I remember at one point I was I don't want to say stuck on the island, but I had not left Oahu in over 2 years. And that's a long time, man.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I didn't even go to any of the other islands. So that was a bit rough. But yeah,
Yeah.
a little boring because I do
Mhm.
like adventure. I like exploring and
Yeah.
going to it. Like even still, I've been here for a year, but I've been so busy, I haven't really explored. So whenever I drive to a new place, it's fun for me.
Yeah.
So we just have to figure out what that thing is that will satisfy that desire to explore.
Mhm.
And I think it's the answer is just more vacations and driving and seeing things we haven't seen before
Yeah, that's a good point.
without moving.
So when you had the two businesses and you decided to sell, how many hours a week were you working? And
Uh,
be generous. Don't cut down. Don't cut any.
yeah.
Say the full amount.
Are you talking about a week or a day?
Both.
Um,
Either one.
so I never. Well, okay, I did a time study on myself for like 5 weeks,
Hmm.
and although, for example, I was at the gym working out,
Mhm.
I'm still working because I got
Yeah.
team members asking me questions. I'm looking at Google Drive and my phone, answering emails in between my workout sets and whatnot. So I'm still working. I'm just doing two things at once.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
when I
That
go
that
to,
counts. Yeah.
yeah, I would say so. I
Yeah.
went to, like I go to Lifetime Fitness and I'll go sit in the jacuzzi. Well, I'm relaxing, but at the same time, I'm still working, right? I'm still answering, hey, Chris, what about this and that? So if
Well,
you count,
it's like a working lunch. People say a working lunch. You're having
exactly.
lunch, but you're talking
Yeah.
about
Yes.
business, so that counts as work.
Yeah. It's being efficient, right? So
Mhm.
if you count all of that, I tend to do a good, you know, I could do a 12-hour day easily,
Yeah.
10 hours.
Easy.
But, I could be sitting and watching TV and my mind is still going and I'm thinking about, okay, what's the solution to this problem? And
Hmm.
I'm exploring different things.
Yeah.
Or like last week, I had a presentation I had to give at this builders expo, and I was sitting in my
Oh,
chair going
how'd
over
that
my
go?
presentation. It went well. Now, it was we signed up late, so it was the last hour on the last day. So not many people showed up because everyone is like, "I'm out of here." But
You gotta have free pizza. That's how you get people in the door.
yeah, I guess I got to make it a little bit more interesting next time. But the
Donuts.
presentation itself went well. I wasn't there speaking for myself. I was speaking on behalf of a company that I use. So I was there really to give my testimony. Um, and the feedback I got from them was really encouraging. So for that, it went really well. But it was also practice because there's other things I got to speak at here in the next couple of weeks at. I'll shorten make a shorter version of this presentation for that particular one. So, but anyway, things like that just kind of keep my mind going, and I'll sit in my chair, watch TV, but I'm in my mind, I'm practicing my speech.
Yeah. So, you'd say it's fair to say it's 12-hour days, easy,
Yeah, yeah,
easy. Okay.
hmm
And that's being generous. I mean, like I know like people that have a W-2 job that's like an hour job or salary job.
hmm
Okay, let's go with an hourly job. People who check out, they clock out, they still think about work off in their
right,
off time, but they're not
right,
getting paid for it because they're hourly employees, right?
right. Yeah.
If you're a salary worker, that's very common to think about job when you come home. Um, like for example, when you're a police officer or whatever, you
hmm
probably are still reflecting on the day, right?
Oh yeah, of
And
course.
I know for a fact when I was in the military, and you know this too,
hmm
um, you're not you're very rarely off, right? I mean, like it just seemed like the military was your whole life, you know.
Yeah.
And you're not now you're getting salary, so you're not getting paid for it either because you're on salary, right?
Right.
So you're not getting
Right.
paid extra. But when you're your own business owner, it's I guess it's a little different because you feel like you have more responsibility and control, right? Of the outcome. Like if you
Yeah.
don't solve this problem, it's not going to get solved.
Yeah.
It's up to you. There's nobody coming to save you. There's
Yeah.
no, you don't, the senior chief doesn't have your back, you know.
Right. Hmm.
Um,
You don't have people like, I mean, you'll have peers that are running their own businesses, but
right.
if you're running a business and you're by yourself, you don't have anyone in the trenches, fighting it with you. I mean, you got your team,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and I would say my team is pretty loyal and I can rely on them for certain things. But at the end of the day, it's like it's my thing. They have the opportunity to find something else. Um, for me,
So,
it's a little bit different.
so when you're grinding away still, like when you're relaxing, right? But
Hmm.
you're still in the grind a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
How much of that is fear? How much of it is enjoyment?
I think it all depends what's going on. Like right now, I wouldn't say fear. Um, I
Okay.
try to stay away from the fear. It's more like concern, you know?
Hmm.
Like I got a problem. Um, yeah, I could go down the fear pipeline or the rabbit hole of fear, but I've learned that mistake before.
Hmm.
When you make decisions when you have fear in your mind, you just kind of screw things up, you know. But if you realize a concern and like, okay, there is a solution to this, and bring in the faith into it, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I just need to keep my mind open of the opportunity or the solution. If I got fear in my mind, I'm not going to see it because I'm allowing a negative force overtake my mind, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's a constant battle. Obviously when things are a bit rough, uh, that's where I'm at. That's kind of like my battle space in my mind. When things are going well, um, that's when it's like I'll still talk about work because I love it. And I'm like, oh, we can do this now. We can do that. What about we bring so and so on our team and we could do all these different things, just ideas and ideas and ideas, right? So it all depends on the season that I'm going through. If it's tough, it's kind of the concern. If it's good, then I'm thinking ideas and growth and all that stuff.
Makes a lot of sense. So mindset is a huge aspect
Mm-hmm.
of this whole entrepreneur thing. How do you
100%.
how do you get in the right mindset?
For me, I I know myself. Being self-aware is very important. Understanding that you can be like for me, I've always been plagued by fear. Um, can't tell you what the source is. Maybe it's from my parents, whatever. I'm not sure. I just know that I have it in me. I think we all do at certain levels. And for me, I wake up in the morning. I'll do reading. I get it. Like whatever I read depends on how I feel. Like if I'm in a place right now where I feel like I
Right.
could get fearful, I read a book that's more inspirational. I just read a book by Erwin McManus. It was the fourth time I read it, called The Last Arrow, and it's
Hmm.
all about leaving nothing for the next life. And it's not it's just like a subtitle stating like, "Hey, you only have this one life. Do go all out and do everything you can." Like that's our responsibility in life. And so I read that. That was inspiring. I do read books like that. I get a vision board. I'll read the Bible. I'll reflect. I'll journal every single morning.
Are you
And it
having
puts my
coffee while you do this or water?
Mhm.
Or what are you doing?
Both. Yeah.
Having coffee, yeah. Okay.
Coffee and water. Well, I'll wake up and I'll have like this green juice. I'll drink that. Coffee and water. I'll do my reading. My normal routine is read. I'll read a book, read a Bible, um, do my journal, and then I do my vision board, and then I can start my day. And then typically after that,
What's in the green stuff?
I just started taking it. It's called Athletic Greens One, made in New Zealand. It's something that Joe Rogan has been promoting.
Okay.
So, but yeah,
Microgreens.
what's that?
Is it microgreens like stuff like chopped up kale or something or
It's just
grind?
like it's a powder. It's a
Oh,
powder.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I didn't get into the science of it. I just I just bought it.
Makes a difference?
I feel pretty good about it, but I've only been doing that for 3 days, so hard to say.
Okay.
But yeah. But yeah, I mean that's what I do for mindset. Just being aware of where my mind is and feeding it what I need to feed it to
Yeah.
get to the right place. But yeah, that's what I do. Being and I listen to like Craig Rochelle says, your mind is going to go in the direction of your strongest thought or something like that. And, that's important. Like, what are you dwelling on? Is it something that's fearful? Is it negative? Is it self-limiting? Are you talking negative about yourself? If that's the strongest thought in your mind, then that's where your day is going to go. And I got to be careful of that. So it
Yeah.
makes me really pay attention to what I'm reading in the Bible. I'm reading the book of James now, and it's talking about, when you pray, you got to have faith. You can't doubt it because you're person, I'm paraphrasing here, but if you're going to pray for something, you have to have faith that it's going to happen. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like, business is struggling. Do I pray for, my business while at the same time worry that we're going to go under? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go that route. So I have to really read things like that to really put my mind in the right place.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in the Bible though about crying out to God, and they're
Yeah.
not they're not, self-censoring at all like in the Psalms. I mean,
Yeah.
he's crying out to God. He's in danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
His life is in danger.
Hmm.
And if you really feel that way, then, you know,
Certainly do. And like, for example, I'll when I type out my prayers in my journal because I think it's important to kind of document all that stuff for my kids and whatnot. And I will say, like, I'm afraid, but I'm afraid because I'm trying to take control here. And I realize these things. I'm trying to take control. And it's not for me to control because this journey is not mine. And I believe that I've got these visions and dreams and desires because God put them there, and it's my job to go after them. And I can't allow fear to keep me from doing that. But at the same time, it still feel this way, right? So it's partly admitting how I feel, being aware of how I feel, but at the same time, like acknowledging that, like, God, I know you're in control here. I know you got this, but I am also afraid.
yeah, I think what I hear you saying, I'm taking away from this is that fear can be a habit, can be a bad habit,
Yeah.
just
Hmm.
like junk food or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can
Exactly.
get so used to it, and then you don't realize that you're a lot of times you go to fear not because you actually are in danger, but it's just because what you're used to doing. Just like you're
Exactly.
hitting that T-bell,
Hmm.
and you're used to having that burrito supreme, and
Hmm.
you're used to getting the big gulp or whatever, the Slurpee.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have that problem, but I know people that do.
Sure.
And then when you break that habit, like if you don't do T-bell for a while, for like 6 months, you actually don't even crave it anymore. And it's kind of
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
that with fear. It's like you train yourself out of it. You train yourself to look for a solution,
Hmm.
or be more, or say something positive. say
Right.
say a few positive statements that are true.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't BS it. You can't BS yourself, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be
Exactly.
true. It's got
Hmm.
to be true. So,
Yep.
but can you show us a vision board? Because I'm trying to get an idea of what that is. Is it something we can look at? Can you show us?
I'd have to peel it off my wall, but
Oh, okay.
essentially what I have, I'll explain mine, but what I have.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it'd be nice if we could see it, but if you can't, if it's too
yeah.
much,
Let me go
you
see
want
if
me
I
to
can peel
pause
it
it?
off real quick. Yeah, sure.
Pause it. I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me?
You got me?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see
All right,
this
here we go.
vision board.
All right. So
So it's an actual board. Okay.
yeah, it's an actual board, and then you put photos and stuff on it. A lot of people do it.
Is it a
For
cardboard?
me,
Is it cardboard? What is it made of?
it's like you could do anything, but use like a foam board because
Hmm.
it's firmer. And then I put these Velcro things on the back and I hang it over on my wall.
I'm going to
And
describe it for people listening. It's about a quarter inch thick. It looks like it's about what, 3 by 2.5, something like that,
uh,
or three
yeah,
by.
something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's
Yeah.
not. I mean, you can easily hold it in your hands. It's not too
Yeah,
big.
it's just something that your kids would use at a school project or something,
Right. And it's got several images, and they're all lined up perfectly.
Yeah, you could do it
Uh,
any way you want. I just like things being a little bit more in order.
okay.
Yeah. So for mine, um, I had certain things I want to hit, like what my business will look like, certain things I'll be doing this year, financial goals. And so, I start off by going, when I go over it, I go in a certain order. I read this on top. It says, I'm going to change the world. And then this image here is a picture of me with like this book title that says how I built a $10 million business. And then I'll just say, I'm going to build a $10 million business. And then I'm going to run the Marine Corps 50K marathon in October. So I have photos of that. So I look at these three and I'm saying I'm going to run it on October 29th. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to finish in 6:30. I have an RV, picture of an RV here. This is something that I want because I want to create memories with the family. Money goals on the side for the company, for myself. I want to take the family to Puerto Rico for Christmas. So I got a picture of the hotel I want to stay at with the Puerto Rican flag. And then one day I want to have my own office building. So I got a picture of an office building with office spaces. I want to own that building and I want to rent spaces out to other businesses. And the reason I want to do that is if I can rent out those places to other businesses who are in the trade, smaller businesses, then we can have like this incubator of business development for people in the trades, and we can learn from each other and grow together and use each other as, you know, subcontractors and stuff. So that's why that's on there.
Okay. And that picture of yourself, did you have a gold tooth, or was I imagining that?
No, that was an imagination.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
no
thought,
gold.
oh
I
gosh,
don't.
okay,
Yeah,
you
I
want
don't
to get
have
a gold
a.
tooth. Okay.
I don't have a gold grill in that. Not a
Yeah.
desire of mine.
Well, I don't know how, I wouldn't know how to do a vision board because I
Mm.
really want to have a lisp and I don't know how to put an image of that on there. That's one of my goals. I've been working on it for a while.
Well, you can create a vision board and just say it out loud with a lisp,
Yeah.
and that just reinforces it.
Okay. Yeah, so seems a little abstract, but yeah. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, my vision board would probably be really boring. It would probably just have like a book on it that I
Hmm.
want to read and like a bunch of guns,
Yeah.
some pocket knives, a lisp.
I would say if my kids looked at mine, even Linda, they'd be like, okay, yeah, it's business. It's,
Yeah.
you know, running. Like to them, it's boring. But for me, it's like inspiring.
The running thing, did you say it's a 50K? So that's like
Yeah.
30 miles, right?
Yeah. 30 miles, 30-ish miles. Yeah.
And you want to do it in 6 hours? Did you say?
6.5. Yeah. I think I
Jeez.
can. I mean, I did a full marathon. I mean, I'm not like full on training. Um, I'm preparing myself. I'm not like training. So I did a marathon. The best time I got was 4:59 in a regular marathon. I did the Boston Marathon a few years ago.
And that's how many miles again? 24?
26.2.
26? Okay.
So add 5 more miles ish to that. I'm
Now
giving myself an. Mhm.
what is the point of this? Because this sounds like a real pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is. That's the
So why
purpose
do you
behind
do
it.
it then?
You do hard things on purpose, and the rest of the things in life seem a little bit easier.
Uh-huh.
So I find hard things to do like this, and I do it because when I hit other hard things that are not on purpose, I look back on things like, okay, I did an ultra marathon at the age of 48. I can handle this. So, and it's not a one and done thing. Like I've done hard things in my life in the past, but I choose to continually do hard things. So I still have that same mindset of I can still do this. So that's why I'm doing it.
So it's all about mindset, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Everything. Yep.
How much would you say mindset is the key to unlocking success in your entrepreneur stuff?
I would, for me personally, I think it's everything because if I get the wrong mindset, I'm for me because I'm the first person in my family that I know of who broke out and became an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's a lot of
that's true.
rewiring in my
See,
mind
I know
that I
your
have to change.
family. I know
Mm,
your family, so I know that's true. They're all W-2s, right?
yeah.
And your dad was
And
a W-2.
my dad, my mom, and just everyone in my extended family too. I don't know of anyone who had their own business. Um, so I'm breaking away from the norm in my family. So there's a lot of rewiring in my mind that I have to do. But so for me, mindset is 100% necessary to stay on top of. For, let's say, for example, someone whose family, all they did was entrepreneurial work. It makes sense to them. Maybe they don't have to focus so much on it like I do. I don't know.
Yeah,
But for me, I do, because there's a lot of rewiring I have to do in order to achieve what I want.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gosh, how long were you doing this entrepreneur stuff before you figured that out?
I I realized it before, when in 19
How many years have you been doing it right now?
um in October it'll be 4 years.
Okay.
4 years in October. So still fairly new, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But I realized the whole mindset thing before I started, because when I left the military and police department, that transition was rough. And I had to figure out, like, okay, everything that I'm going through, all the depression and all the BS that I was going through, was all, the source of the problem was in my mind. So I had to figure that piece out. So I read a book called Excuses Be Gone by Dr. Wayne Dyer. And that was a huge book that really helped me understand the difference between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And then using that to experiment, using my conscious mind to rewire my subconscious mind. And then from there, I just kind of looked for books or YouTube videos or seminars that were in line with that message to help me get to a higher level of understanding and a higher level of me being able to be on top of my own mind.
What's
There's
the
a
name of
book,
that book again?
Excuses Be Gone.
Okay.
And then I think it's Dale Carnegie wrote the book Own Your Own Mind. That was a huge book for me as well. In fact, I'm going to be reading that again here pretty soon. So those two things, and they all say similar messages, talking about the conscious and subconscious mind. They just have different tactics and different things I could use to help understand, like, okay, I'm thinking this right now, but that doesn't mean I have to hold on to that thought. It doesn't mean who I am. That's not my story. So recognize I've got this thought. It's there, but I don't like it. So I'm not going to hold on to it. And I'm going to purposely think about something else to get my mind diverted from that thought I don't want.
Mhm.
So I started doing that to get away from the depression and all that from leaving the military and police department. And then just using the same tools as I go through this entrepreneur life.
I noticed you're reading a lot of books and there are a lot about entrepreneur stuff. It seems like there's a whole industry of entrepreneurs that
Mm-hmm.
just talk to other entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And anybody who's waded in the podcasts and waded into these books and stuff figures that out pretty quickly if you're paying attention. Does that
Yeah.
ever affect you? Do you ever feel like that's kind of weird?
What's that?
By the way, look at the pen I'm using today
Government
for
issue pen,
you.
huh?
Yeah, yeah. Using a Skillcraft US
You
government.
thief.
These are really good pens though.
Yeah, they're okay.
I'm glad to see they're still being used well.
So your question was, what was being seemed weird to me?
Oh, I mean to me I just it's like when I look at the entrepreneur stuff and I look at the podcasts and I look at I look at people in that the way business people talk in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the industry seems to be almost like an ingrown toenail, like where it's directed at itself. It's like
Mm-hmm.
because there's so many people that hate their jobs. There's a
Yeah.
rich market for people trying to help them like figure out if they want to quit their job and go be an entrepreneur. And the mindset part of that is probably a huge chunk of that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say. Does that ever affect you knowing that? Does it ever make you feel like this whole thing is kind of suspicious?
No, I don't
I
think
mean, I
so.
know that you have a real business. You're
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
you're not speaking to other. I mean, you have a real service that you perform. So, I
I
mean,
think, like, now, because I mean, like I said, only like 3.5, 4 years into this,
yeah,
but you learn when you're doing this, you learn a lot in that short amount of time, right?
I bet.
But I can kind of tell when I talk to people and they're like, "Yeah, I'm reading this book and I'm gonna start my own business, do this, and this. But then, I'll ask them like, just some more questions about what they want to do and what's their plan. And as we go down this questioning, I'm like, okay, I know they're not going to do anything because they're too attached to their W-2 or whatever it might be. Like they're just too afraid. They get all these ideas, but they're too afraid. I can sense that fear in them, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's fine. I mean, and I'm not judging them at all. I mean, there's people who need to be a W-2. I mean, I need people who want to be W-2s to be in my company. You know what I mean? Like not everyone is supposed to have their own company. But I do believe there's a lot of people out there who have that desire and that capability, but they are plagued by the fear because we are preached to from a very young age that you're supposed to go out and get a job by the teachers, the school system. And there's very little of, hey, you know what? If you want to build something on your own, this is how you do it. There's nothing like that. So I think
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
because of that, there's a lot of messages going out to people with those who's being plagued by fear. And that helped me out a lot. That helped me come out of like, okay, I need to do these certain things in order to become an entrepreneur. I need to let go of certain things. I got to let go of the safety net. Um, but I'm not sure if this is answering your question or not. But I think it's a good message for some people who need it. But I think there's a lot of people who still need and want and should be a W-2 because that's, I need W-2 people in my company.
Mhm. Can you give an example of something in your conscious mind that helps you master your subconscious mind, break bad habits? Putting you on the spot,
Yep,
I know, but
I can. I
okay.
can.
All right.
So I, when I'm working and I come across something that makes me mad, makes me whatever, it just puts me in a mood. And
And
it
that
could
could be anything, everybody.
it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be
Yeah.
whatever. It could be an email that came in and I read it the wrong way and it pissed me off and I'm like pissed, right? And it affects me. And that happens a lot, unfortunately. But I had like, all right, let me reread this again, make sure I'm getting it right. But so a lot of times I'm working from home in the office and it's summertime and
Yeah.
it's just not recent. It's over this last year where my boys will just be who they are. You know, I come out of the office, I'm deep in thought about whatever's making me mad. And Dad, my iPad's not working. Like Wi-Fi is messed up. This game is glitched or whatever. Like they're pissed off about their own thing.
Yeah.
And the easy thing would be to like, would you knock it off? Like, you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
kind of like,
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
but I find myself early on identifying like, okay, I feel like I'm about to lash out on my kids, but the way I feel is not their fault. And they're too young right now to understand how to resolve their own problems,
Right.
but I know
Right.
how to. So I need to like block or take my problem, put it on the bookshelf, and focus on what I need to do to help out my kids. So I've been doing really well at that over this last year. So that's one area where my mind is programmed to just like, don't talk to me. I'm pissed off about this. To now it's like subconscious mind or my conscious mind saying, hey, that's not their fault. Put this problem on the shelf and go help them out. So that
Yeah.
that, that would be an example.
Well, that probably helps your business too, because if your kids are happier because you're nicer to them
Yeah.
and things are better at home, that's going to make everything smoother for the business.
Yeah, and that same exercise that I do with my kids, I do with my team, right? Because I can easily get pissed off at them for something that's not their fault. So I have to like put that on the bookshelf and say, hey, I'm here. What do you need? Let's talk about whatever it is you're stuck on, and help them out. And I'll tell you, like doing that and focusing on their problem, and helping them resolve it, gets me out of that funk and then I'm able to approach that other problem of mine with a different perspective of like, okay, I just solved some problem here. Let's just approach this without being pissed off and see what we can do. And a lot of times I'm able to like resolve it and like, oh crap, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I'm totally misunderstood this whole situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been there myself many times.
Yeah.
So how many people do you have working for you?
Uh,
Take a
eight.
sip of your coffee. I saw you going for your
Yeah.
coffee.
No worries. I got
You need a sip.
well, this is cup
Or is
number
it
4
whiskey?
today.
Is it
No, not
whiskey?
not yet. No, no, that's tonight. Um, but we got 8 people on my team.
How do you afford to have all those people? Like, I mean, that's one of the things that like I'm a total idiot with business, but
Mm.
like how do you that's the first thing I think of is that's a lot of money coming out the door. How do you have that? Or I mean, do
S-
you feel like you just need them or otherwise you can't get anything done?
Well, um,
And I know
yeah,
nothing about your business, but I just know that
sure.
you just started it. So I just,
Right.
like
I
6 months ago
struggled at
or something.
first. Yeah, I struggled at first to hire someone, but and this is actually what I was speaking at the Builders Expo last week of how to scale your team or how to scale your business with a team, with a remote team. So what I did was my business coach had a property management company down here in Houston, and he had a bunch of employees, and his I think his payroll is like 60% of his revenue, which is really high. The only place you should have a high payroll like that would be like in a childcare center, which would be like 65% of your revenue goes towards payroll because there's regulations. You have to have certain teachers, amount of teachers per child, or you know what I mean.
Right.
So, but for this, it's like you don't need to have a certain ratio. So they came across, I can't remember how they found out, but anyway, they started using remote team members, and remote team members would be anyone outside of the US. And their focus was on Mexico because there was a lot of people in Mexico who lived in the US. Their English is really good. The US is more used to the Mexican culture than they are in other parts of the world. And they're also in the same time zone for the most part. So they hired a very large team in Mexico. And so when I started my company, he was like, okay, cool. Let's let's start hiring you some people. Um, and the first person I wanted to hire was an executive assistant because they are the extension of me. Anything that I'm doing, they're doing. So like all the administrative work that needs to be done, anything that I have to remember, I don't have to worry about it because the EA is doing that for me. So that was my first hire. And when you compare the US rates compared to like my team is in Mexico, um, you can hire 2 or 3 remote team members for the price of one US based employee. Now, I like having a local team. I like hiring Americans and stuff, but when you're a startup business, it's very difficult to deal with, you know, the minimum wage in Washington was $15. So, you're
Yeah.
going to get a minimum wage worker for $15 and you're going to expect them to do all these things. You're like, well, I could go flip a burger and make the same amount and not be so stressed, right? So that was one thing, workers' comp and all the other stuff that comes with it. It's just, it really hurts the small business.
Yeah.
And I needed to grow this thing. So, I was able to, for example, what I spoke about at the expo last week was if I had my team here in the US, I would be paying $36,000 a month in payroll, which is a lot. Like a small
Jeez.
business, that's a lot of money, man. And but because I am using remote team members, I'm still getting the same quality work, great people, English skills are there. I'm getting everything I need done, and I'm only paying 12,000 a month in payroll.
And
So that's a huge
yeah.
difference.
And are you paying them comparably well for what the wages are for where they live?
I'm
So
paying
so they're happy?
they are happy. It's so if they were to get a local job, first of all, they would have to leave their house and they would have to they wouldn't be making as much money as I'm paying them. I'm not paying $1 million, I'm paying them a fair wage. Um, and I'm allowing them an opportunity to work from home. Majority of my team are stay-at-home moms and they
Gotcha.
have skills and they want to work, but they quit their careers so they could support their husbands. And so I offer them this position and they're just absolutely amazing and
That's
they can
good.
handle the job while I'm doing
How
things
did
like
how did they
this.
learn English in school?
Well, like you've spoke to Ismar over email. Ismar grew up in Dallas, so she moved down to Mexico with her husband, and she lives down there now. So, she sounds like an American. Fernanda just went to school K through 8, and it was all English. So in Mexico, so that's how she learned
How do
English.
you find these people? There's a third party that helps you.
Yeah, you can. There's agencies you can go through, which can be a bit expensive. But what I use is my friend Pete. He was the partner who owned that big property management company down here, who I learned from. So he's created his own marketplace platform where there's like tens of thousands of remote team members on there who have these amazing skills that you can create your profile, go on there, search for, certain skills that you're looking for,
Is that
and
free to you? Is that free to you, or do you pay a fee?
it's free to us, free to all employers who
Nice.
want to use it. And then the way they get paid is
How does he run the site? Does he doesn't make money on it?
he makes money. So the way they make money is that whenever somebody, an employee, a remote team member creates their profile, they understand that a percentage of their pay is going to go towards VPM for the convenience,
Oh,
right? And so that's how they make their money. So I think it's like 10%. So, all their fees are transparent. There's no hidden fees or anything. So that's how they make it. And it's a win-win for everyone. Um,
wow.
and I like using them because they solve my payroll issues. They do time cards. They do all kinds of great stuff that as a business owner, I'm like, I don't have to worry about it because VPN's got it.
So this third party does your payroll?
Yeah. So my team will
No
go on to
kidding. Wow.
VPM and do their time cards. I go on to VPM, I approve them, and then VPM automatically pulls money out of my account and pays them and puts it into their account.
So the trustworthiness issue, because that would be the first thing I was thinking is how do I
Hmm.
know I trust these people?
Yeah.
The trustworthiness issue is kind of a community vetting kind of a thing. Like
Yeah. I mean,
where
there's like
you
as
don't
far
want
as
to they have an incentive not to get burned by doing something stupid or being dumb.
yeah, right.
And their incentive is that they want to have a good reputation in this space.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. A
Okay.
lot of us, some people who are using remote team members, we do talk, we do know each other. Like, so I mean, not everybody, but if there's a remote team member was up to no good, word would get around pretty quickly. And plus, we would just let VPM know, and I'm sure VPM would probably take them off their platform.
Do they take care of your taxes too? I mean, how do you know what tax form to send them? And like, I don't
Or
even understand how that
for
works
the
if they're
remote
in
team
Mexico.
members.
Yeah. Are they
Well,
1099s or what are they?
if they're in the US, it'd be 1099. So when the remote team members can log into VPM and pull down all their pay reports that they need for their banks and if
Oh,
they're
okay.
apply for a house or whatever.
So they deal with their taxes on their own. You don't need to send them a form or anything.
Yeah, that's totally on them, and that's in their contract that taxes are is totally on them.
Oh, they have a contract.
Yeah, I have a contract with all my team members.
Huh.
Yeah.
And how do you come up with what's in the contract?
Um, I just used one that's from my network that they use.
Are these stupid questions? It's just like,
No, no, not at all. I mean, it's interesting. It's like I was totally talking about this last week, and these are the questions that the people attending should have been asking me.
uh,
So I'll give this podcast a VPM, and they can put it on their channel too, and say, hey, learn more about VPM on the
well, that's the first thing
Republic.
I would wonder is, do I need to
Yeah.
get an attorney for this? Because that's money out the door, and I
Well,
don't
so
like
that
it. I don't like attorneys.
well, here's a great thing. Like and I'm very close with Pete. I went to Pete's the owner. I went to Pete's house on Saturday. Went for a nice long run and talked business. Um, and they have an attorney here in the U.S. They who has question or answers to all those questions, and they have an attorney in Mexico for any of the team members down there that hey, they have questions about taxes or whatever. Is this legal? Is it not? They have an attorney in Mexico who can answer all those questions. And bottom line is everything is legit. It's good to go. And if someone has concerns and they want to use remote team members, they can certainly talk to the team at VPM and they can get into the legalese about it.
Awesome. How did you get to know Pete first time?
He was my business coach's business partner.
So the first thing you got to do is get a business coach. Is that what you're saying?
I think everyone, like, if you're in a business, you should have a coach of some kind.
That sounds a little okay. So let's talk about mindset as far as getting a coach, because like, where do you start? There's seems like everybody and their brother is coaching,
Yeah.
and how do you get a coach for how to find a coach? It's like, where do you start?
Hmm. Well,
Um,
for me, it was easy. I think it was easy anyway, because I was getting into property management, and Steve, he created with Pete and sold their property management company in 7 years, and they sold it for multi-million dollars. So I wanted to really just kind of learn from somebody who's done what I wanted to do.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that's easy.
and
Anybody can do that. Anybody can sell. Just kidding.
yeah, I wish I did. I didn't, um, but yeah, so that I found him, and even that, like, even though I trusted him, even though I knew him, even though he's done what I wanted to do, I came out here like 18 months ago for a 2 day event, and he was in the back of the bus. So I'm like, I'm going to go back there and I'm just going to drill him with a bunch of questions, like all day long, just drilling him with questions. Like, well, what about this? Like, how would you handle this? I wanted to make sure that, like, if I'm going to invest in this, it's going to be legit. See me. And
Yeah.
when I was done, I was still like, yeah, can I just read a book and watch YouTube videos and all this stuff and kind of learn it on my own? Like, I'm a smart guy, I could figure things out. But what I realized is that you can read a book, but you can't ask a book a question. You can watch a video, but you
Well, you
really
can, but
can't.
you look like a total idiot.
Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. And especially if you do it with a lisp, right? But um so I just decided, I'm like, you know what? This is what I'm doing. This is the life I want, and this is my direction. So, you know, everyone's heard, oh, Michael Jordan's got coaches, Tiger Woods got coaches, and they're the best in what they do. Like, okay, well, yeah, I want to do that too. So why not? Let's do this and learn from him. And
How,
so
so how do
I
you
would say
find
that,
a coach, and how much does it cost, and how do you know whether you're getting good deals? Is it just trial and error?
I would say you'd want to interview a few people that are in the industry that you're working. I would say that's important. If someone's in the industry, not in your industry, and they don't understand it, it might be kind
Yeah.
of difficult. But even though they might bring a unique perspective and some good ideas, they're still not in your industry. So, um,
Yeah.
being in your industry is one. Like for me, there's quite a few coaches I talk to. I like coaching. So I talked to a coach not long ago, um, and I was talking to him, and I'm like, I like what he's saying. I like all these different strategies, but then I was seeing how, and this sounds kind of bad, but like how are they in their personal life, you
Mhm.
know? And I got a glimpse of his personal life, and I don't want to get to
You hired a private
details.
investigator to
No, I didn't do that.
on your coach.
No,
Wow, this is
we
getting
talked.
expensive.
Yeah, I didn't, and I wasn't going to hire him. I was looking to be a part of a different mastermind to help, broaden my network of things. But I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't know if I want to be attached to that. And if there's drama associated with what's going on in his world, I don't want that to be to my business to be affected by that in any way. So I kind of stood away from that. And then anyway, you got to know what you want. You have to like look at the coach, say, is this person been where I want to go? Do they understand my industry? Do they understand marketing and sales? If they're just purely operations, then I would want someone who's kind of well-rounded. How do you get leads? You don't have a business if you don't have leads. If you don't know how to sell, you're not going to have any operations. You're not going to make any money. So it all starts with marketing. Do they understand that? Can they help you when you struggle with marketing? So things like that. Like I searched for someone who was different than me. So like for example, Steve, where he understood my industry, I was more operationally focused. He's kind of a sales marketing guy, and I'm weak in that area. So I'm like, okay, it makes sense to kind of have him teach me something. So, for example, the microphone, right? I got the microphone because of him. I got this fancy camera, It's not my computer camera. It's my whatever this camera is, because I quality,
Right.
right? When if I'm talking to clients,
Makes you look good.
it
Because I
does. And
happen to
it's like,
know in real life you're actually pretty ugly. But this camera actually makes you look really good. I could not tell you're ugly. No, I can tell you
it
have like a
does.
light on or something. Like, do you have one of those round light
I've
things?
got a LED light up here. It's fun. Like
Yeah.
I can't move the camera around, but I got
It looks
two
like
big
natural
LED.
light.
Yeah, well, I've got the LED. I got this open. I got my above head light on, but lighting, sound is important. I got two LED lights over here and a green screen. I mean, I got all that stuff
Is
because of
that all
him.
under marketing then?
It's all under marketing because what I do is I use all that stuff to create videos on YouTube, all my social media stuff, and so yeah, that's part of the whole marketing campaign stuff and looking professional. Because if you
Yeah.
look professional, then people say, okay, look, this guy really cares about what he's doing. He's investing in his stuff. So I can and that all starts there, right? The marketing part and looking good. People start trusting you from that
Okay.
point on.
I
Yeah.
gotcha.
So
That makes
anyway,
sense.
that's why I went towards him, is mainly because he understood my industry and he was strong in areas where I was weak.
I know that we're winding down on a hard stop you have, but I wanted
Hmm.
to ask you, give you a chance to pee and all that stuff for your next.
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
You pee during your next meeting? Wow. Like, do you have a bottle that you have?
I carry my computer with me. It's all good. We're a close
Okay.
team.
So, um, I guess the question I was thinking about this whole time that I wanted to ask you was, is there a takeaway from the first 6 months or whatever you've been in Houston and with this new business? Do you
Mhm.
have like a big idea that you've come upon, like a good takeaway? I hate when people call it a tip because I hate that. I hate
Yeah,
tips.
yeah.
I don't want a tip. What are you talking about? I just want to know a lesson that you've learned.
My
I
biggest
mean,
lesson, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My biggest lesson is our company has done well. And it's done well because we had a network of people who wanted our
Congr-
service.
Congratulations. Wow.
Well,
So you
thanks.
picked the right place, the right business, the right market. How would you put
Well,
that?
so I mean, yeah,
What's the takeaway? What's the
the takeaway
lesson?
is this. So when the economy turned, the network of people we were serving just kind of put a pause on things and put a pause. And they were just like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do renovations or anything just yet. I'm going to try to rent these things out as is. Right. So, what the lesson is that even though a company like if there's a business owner and they're doing well, like, oh, we're all word of mouth, that's great, you're word of mouth. But what happens when that word of mouth kind of dries up?
Mm-hmm.
What other area are you investing in to bring in other leads?
Hmm.
And that's kind of what we did, not on purpose. Not that I was like cocky and like, oh, we don't have to worry about marketing, we're doing all this with no marketing. It's just we're so busy that we didn't really put up a good marketing campaign. That, and I wasn't good at it. I
Hmm.
unfamiliar. I mean, they don't teach you that in the military, right? So
Yeah.
I we've been investing a lot of time and effort in marketing and pivoting from investors to homeowners. Not saying we won't work with investors anymore. We will. We understand them because we've done so much work with them, but we just don't want to
Yeah.
serve an area of people where there's maybe right now they're just putting a pause on things until they feel more comfortable with the economy. Meanwhile, you got homeowners who are not buying a house and they're staying at home, but they're like, okay, we're not going to buy a house, but let's fix up the house we got, right? I
Hmm.
want their business. So now we're doing this big pivot. We're on the other side of that pivot now where all of our marketing is towards them and we want their business.
Oh,
And so that's what we've been doing over the last several months and
that makes
coming up with.
sense. That makes sense of the video I saw recently of you talking about I thought it was a very effective video about the bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was a good point. Like, you walk in your bathroom, it's the first place you go in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And if you hate your bathroom, that's how you're starting your day. And
Yeah, yeah,
I even laughed
exactly.
when you said it. You were like, if this sucks, blah, blah. was like, that sounds like good old Chris Tighe from the Navy. This sucks.
So I've got another. So I came up with that at my BNI every morning. When we go to BNI, you have to do your 45-minute commercial. So I came up with your bathroom sucks. And then I went up the following week and did something about being embarrassed about your kitchen, and that, the newest pandemic is kitchen shaming and people being embarrassed about their kitchen and wondering what people are going to say when they leave, and how we can help them out with those solutions. So
Oh, I
yeah,
haven't seen that one yet. I want to see that.
I don't know if that's been more of like the BNI stuff. I haven't done that on video yet. But anyway, our focus is bathroom and kitchen remodels. But we also have someone that we are partnered with who focuses only on new construction. So we got a few good leads that we're working on with that as well. So yeah, it's been a pivot. Like we went from investors only apartment complexes to now building houses and doing kitchen bathroom remodels. So it's construction, but it's a completely different demographic, and it's a different type of process too than it
Yeah.
is what we're doing. So yeah, I would say the lesson in that is just, step away from your current situation, detach yourself, and look at like, okay, where, the SWOT analysis. What's my threat? Well, I'm focused too much on this group. This group can dry up. So what am I doing just in case that happens? And I need to do it now and not wait until I see warning signs. You see warning signs, it's a little too late.
That sounds like good habits to develop. So basically, you're trying to develop the right habits
Mm-hmm.
and incorporate them in your operating, your daily operating. So you're going to be able to weather whatever issue comes up.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm really interested in the drilling down in a little bit more detail about some of these other things. Maybe we could have you back at some point
Yeah,
and
sure.
talk
Yeah. I
talk more
apologize
about
for the
that.
hard stop. We just have something going on right now. We're like, okay, we need to talk about
No,
this
no, it's
today.
it's you're right in the thick of it, and that's exactly
Yeah.
kind of like that's what I find interesting about your life and what you're doing,
Hmm.
and um. But thanks for coming on, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Luke, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. It's always good chatting with you.
Yeah.